Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving deep into a situation where, well, extreme market fear is clashing head-on with some massive buying power. We're focusing on the Pi network. It's a crypto project. Its price has been absolutely hammered lately.
Yeah, really taking a beating.
But according to the sources we're looking at, it's showing these classic technical signs of a potential huge turnaround.
That's right. And our mission here is really try and make sense of two powerful signals that seem to completely contradict each other.
Right.
So on one side, you've got this overwhelming negative feeling, a 90% price drop from the peak.
Ouch.
Yeah. But on the other side, we have actual real-time data showing a single investor who's just ramped up their buying like crazy in the last month or so.
A single investor.
Yeah. And we're going to use the classic Wyckoff theory, the market cycle theory, to figure out what this concentrated buying really means for Pi's future.
And crucially, the data we're discussing, it's timely, right? We're talking early September 2025.
Exactly. The specific whale movements, the technical signal that this is happening basically now as of early September 2025. So this isn't some old history lesson. It's like an active situation unfolding.
Okay. So before we get to the whale and Wyckoff, maybe just a quick refresher on the Pi network itself?
Sure. So the Pi network, it was founded back in 2019 by some Stanford PhDs.
Ah, the Stanford connection.
Yep. And the big idea was promoting crypto adoption for everyone, making it easy, using your smartphone for mining, low energy use, good goals, fundamentally.
Sounds good on paper.
It does. But the reality right now, it's, well, challenging.
Challenging feels like a bit of an understatement. Our sources confirm the price is down nearly 90% from its all-time high. If it's got that academic background, why such a brutal performance?
Well, it's kind of a classic crypto problem, really. It boils down to liquidity and supply pressure.
Okay.
So the steep drop, it's driven by a few things. Weak market sentiment overall, sure, that plays a part.
Yeah, the whole market's been shaky.
Exactly, but also ongoing token unlocking that means more Pi coins hitting the market, increasing supply. And this is critical, a lack of listings on the big Tier 1 exchanges.
Ah. Okay, so not easy to buy or sell in large quantities then.
Precisely. And that lack of liquidity means even a few big sellers can push the price down dramatically. They have an outsized impact.
Gotcha. That's structural weakness, though, the lack of easy trading. That actually makes this next part even more interesting, doesn't it?
It really does.
Because despite all that fear, the bad price action, the liquidity issues, the analysis we're looking at points towards a potential, parabolic growth phase. And it seems like this potential is being almost single-handedly driven by the actions of just one entity.
And this is where we need to define the whale,
The crypto whale.
Yeah. In crypto, a whale is just an investor, could be an individual or a group, holding so much of a token that their buying or selling can literally move the market price.
They make waves.
They are the wave sometimes. It's concentrated power, pure and simple.
And we can actually put a number on this power in Pi's case. The source calls this buyer Whale 2. Right. And this Whale 2 has basically said, you know what? The rest of the market?
You're wrong
about Pi.
The conviction is just staggering, honestly. The data shows this whale has been on a sustained buying frenzy. Yeah, systematically buying more and more and really accelerating those purchases since August 2025. It's not random buying. It's like a planned accumulation campaign.
Okay, give us a sense of scale here. How much were we talking?
Well, get this. Leading up to September 12th, 2025, on just one Wednesday recently, this whale bought 1.57 million tokens.
1.57 million
in
one day.
In one day. That acceleration, that specific data point around mid-September, that's the signal you really have to watch.
Wow, okay. And what about their total holdings?
That's where it gets even more mind-boggling. So as of the snapshot time-stamped 1 a.m. Central European Time on September 12th, 2025, this single whale holds over 373 million Pi coins.
373 million. What's that worth?
At the time of the analysis, that was valued at over 128 million US dollars.
Wow. Okay. So over 128 million dollars, making them the biggest single holder by far, I assume.
By a long shot. And the fact that they're still buying aggressively, even with the price near historic lows, it just screams confidence, doesn't it?
It really does. So why? What's the thinking? Is it just a super fan?
Well, speculation is running wild, naturally. It could just be someone who passionately believes in the project's long-term vision, a true believer.
Okay.
But the more, let's say, market-savvy theory is that this buyer is extremely well connected. Maybe they have inside knowledge.
Knowledge about what? Like a catalyst?
Exactly. Something like an impending listing on a major exchange, Binance, Coinbase, something like that.
Ah, okay. And that would solve the liquidity problem we talked about.
Instantly. If Pi gets listed on a big exchange, you suddenly have floods of retail buyers, huge trading volume. And that could trigger what's called a short squeeze.
Right, forcing anyone betting against the price to buy back quickly, pushing the price up even faster?
Precisely. It's opportunistic investing 101, potentially.
Okay, wait a second, though. If Pi's whole thing is decentralization, community, smartphone, whining for the masses, why should we care so much about one entity holding $128 million worth? Isn't that kind of the opposite of the goal? Doesn't it highlight a weakness?
That's the paradox, isn't it? You've hit on a key tension here.
Yeah.
While the network aims for decentralization, the actual market price is still driven by good old supply and demand. And in this case, a huge chunk of the available supply seems to have been soaked up by one very centralized force. Now, their strategy, it lines up perfectly with what, say, Warren Buffett preaches: buy when others are fearful.
Be greedy when others are fearful.
Exactly. But the beauty of the analysis we're looking at is that it doesn't just rely on that philosophy. It uses a technical framework, the Wyckoff theory, to see if this accumulation actually fits a pattern that predicts a breakout.
Okay, so now we get to the core of it, the Wyckoff theory. Explain this for us.
Okay.
Why are we using a theory from, what, the 1920s or 30s for crypto?
It sounds old, but Richard Wyckoff's ideas are surprisingly timeless because they focus on market mechanics. Specifically, how large players, what he called the composite man, manipulate supply and demand.
The composite man. Like the smart money, the big institutions.
Exactly. The theory basically says, track what the big money is doing because they control the game. And those principles of supply, demand, and psychology, they apply whether you're trading railroad stocks in 1930 or crypto today.
So in this Pi network situation, our $128 million whale is the modern composite man.
That's the interpretation, yes. Wyckoff outlined 3 key laws: supply and demand price moves where there's least resistance. Cause and effect, the longer the sideways action, the bigger the eventual move.
Okay, like coiling a spring.
Sort of, yeah. And effort versus result, looking for mismatches between trading volume and price changes, which can signal a turn.
And these laws help define the Wyckoff price cycle, the 4 phases: accumulation, markup, distribution, and markdown. Where does the analysis put Pi right now?
It puts Pi firmly in the accumulation phase.
Accumulation, phase 1.
Phase 1. This is where the composite man or whale starts quietly buying up all the coins being dumped by fearful retail sellers. The goal is to build a big position at low prices before starting the rally.
But how do we know it's accumulation and not just, the price drifting sideways before falling further?
Yeah.
What are the signs?
Good question. Wyckoff identified specific events within the accumulation range. It often starts with a selling climax, huge volume, as the last panic sellers give up.
Okay.
Then you might get an automatic rally, a quick bounce, followed by a secondary test, where the price dips again to shake out any remaining weak holders.
Testing the water.
Exactly. And the key thing here is the whale's activity. Their persistent, heavy buying over recent weeks, especially that acceleration in September we mentioned, that strongly suggests we're in the later stages of this accumulation, moving through these tests.
So it's actually the quiet sideways trading, maybe even with low overall volume, that signals the big money is absorbing supply. That seems counterintuitive.
It does, but that's the core idea. Low volume happens because the whale is basically the only major buyer left, just soaking up whatever trickles out from the last few sellers.
Yeah.
Once they've cornered most of the available supply, the market gets very thin.
Right. Not much left to sell easily.
Precisely.
So if the analysis is right, and Kai is confirmed to be in the late stages of Wyckoff accumulation, what comes next, according to the model?
After accumulation comes the markup phase. This is the payoff for the composite man.
The rally.
The rally. Because the whale has absorbed so much supply, even a small increase in demand can't easily be met by sellers anymore. So the price has to rise sharply to attract sellers.
Path of least resistance is now up.
Exactly. And it often leads to that rapid, steep ascent, what the sources call a potential parabolic trend.
Can you give us an example? What does a markup phase look like in practice? Has this happened recently with other coins?
Yeah, the sources point to MYX Finance as a recent comparison. Apparently, it's a lesser-known crypto that spent about 6 weeks consolidating sideways in a tight-range, low-volume, classic accumulation pattern.
Okay.
Then, once it broke out of that range, Demand just overwhelmed the thin supply. The price spiked, hundreds of % gain in a really short time.
Wow.
That's the kind of explosive move the Wyckoff model suggests could be on the cards for Pi if this pattern holds.
Okay, the big question then. If this markup phase kicks off for Pi, what are the actual price targets? What's the potential upside, according to this analysis?
Right, the targets. If the markup starts, the analysis points to 2 key levels based on technical resistance. The first, most probable target is the psychological level of $1 USD.
$1. Break-in parity would be huge psychologically.
Absolutely. It's a major mental barrier. Then, the secondary, more ambitious target is 1.6675 USD. That level comes from the boundary of a double bottom pattern formed earlier in the accumulation phase, according to the analysis.
Okay, so $1 and then potentially 1.6675. What kind of percentage gain are we talking from current levels to that upper target?
From the levels around the time of the analysis, hitting 1.66755 would represent an increase of roughly 388%.
388%.
It just shows the kind of leverage possible when you have that concentrated buying pressure meeting a low liquidity situation, all framed by this classic market cycle theory. It's less about Pi's fundamentals at this stage and more about the market mechanics.
So to wrap this up then, what this really highlights for you, the listener, is how the actions of one massive player, this $128 million whale, actively buying through September 2025, combined with a century-old technical model like Wyckoff, can signal a potentially massive price shift. Even when sentiment is terrible and the project faces challenges, the technicals, driven by the whale, suggest a major breakout could be imminent, assuming the whale's bet is right.
And it leaves us with a really interesting, almost philosophical question, doesn't it? If Wyckoff theory works by tracking the composite man, this big centralized money, and it seems to be playing out in a project like Pi Network that claims to be about decentralization and accessibility, well, is this technical analysis truly reflecting underlying value? Or is it just giving us a really clear map of how concentrated wealth can still manipulate even these supposedly new decentralized markets?
So are we tracking fundamentals or just tracking the whale?
Exactly. Something to definitely think about, or maybe research more on your own as you watch how this plays out.